Welcome back to Collective Practice. I'm Lauren Spaulding, and if you're new here, this is a podcast for mental health entrepreneurs where we talk business skills, clinical skills, and mental health. And today we're going to be focusing on our own mental health. I feel like it's been a minute since I made a video on this topic, but it's so important and so vital to our job. And I wanted to focus today on talking about self-care that you can schedule during your work week. Now, the first tip I want to talk about as far as scheduling self-care into your weekly routine is to schedule rest. And this feels so simple, and yet it's one of the hardest things for therapists to do because we are constantly thinking of billable versus non-billable hours. We are thinking about our revenue. We're thinking about how we want our business to grow, that we often forget to schedule rest throughout the week. And if you struggle with this, I recommend starting with at least scheduling one 30-minute block during the week, and then work your way up from there. Eventually making the goal of making sure that you have at least one day of rest scheduled during the week, and making that ultimate goal 2 days of rest, whether that's taking weekends off or having 2 different days off if you are a therapist that works on weekends. Now, if you have incredibly porous boundaries around this and your time boundaries are something you struggle with, I do say take one step back and make sure that you're actually scheduling a lunch hour for yourself. There are some people who really struggle with this and feel like they need to be available during their workday at any time for clients. I recommend setting a boundary for yourself around that because you are in this for the long haul. And maybe right now it feels okay to only have a 15-minute lunch or a 30-minute lunch, but in the long run, that is going to hurt you and is going to ultimately lead to burnout or compassion fatigue. So pull up that work calendar and block off 1 hour at some point in the afternoon for your lunch. Be flexible with what your work hours look like, but ultimately make sure that you do have an hour in the middle of your day where you're able to take a breather, meet your basic needs, and reset for the next group of clients that you're going to be seeing. Okay, so lunch has been scheduled. Now let's talk about scheduling time to rest. So I wanted to challenge you to look at your calendar and pick out one empty space on that calendar, put in an event, and mark it as rest. Whether that's, like I said, just 30 minutes out of your day, or if you could do it for an entire day, like say all this Saturday, I'm going to rest and not schedule an obligation. Try that out and make sure that you are respecting your body's needs and your mind's needs for rest and relaxation, to be able to regulate, to be able to process, to be able to decompress. Scheduling rest is going to meet a lot of needs for you and for your mental state that's going to keep you in a better spot for your work in the long run. My second self-care tip for scheduling self-care in your week is to have an accountability partner or an accountability community. Whether it's one individual or a group, do you have a space where you're checking in at least once a week with someone who completely understands your field, what you're talking about, and your stressors? It's so different to talk with someone in our community who is doing similar work to us than it is to talk to a friend, a loved one, a spouse, anyone who's outside of our field. When we're able to connect with someone, we're not only getting that empathy and some supportive words communicated to us, but we're also getting deep understanding. We're getting complete acceptance and maybe even appreciation for what we do. Someone who we can connect with in our field and check in with without judgment, without agenda, can really help for times where we are feeling a lot from our clients. Because we do experience things like countertransference, we do experience things like compassion fatigue and secondary trauma. And so when we are not having a space to safely talk about it, we're bottling it all up, we're holding it all ourselves, and that ultimately is going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead us to feel overwhelmed, and all our system can do to care for us is shut down. But when we can let it out pieces at a time, when we can process with someone, when we can consult when needed and get some help and support when we need it, we can feel a lot more longer stamina for our job. We could feel more energy, more mental energy to show up for our clients and to show up for them well. I personally have an accountability person who I check in with almost daily, and we keep it simple. We do voice memos to each other. We don't use any information about our clients. We keep it to our experience because it's not consultation. She doesn't need to know background and context of what my client's going through, but more so it's a space where I can talk about what came up for me. And when I'm able to do that, I notice that I have so much more emotional capacity and I have so much more space and openness for my clients. We're human. It's impossible for us to stay a blank slate with our clients. We're going to have our own stuff get kicked up. We're going to feel deeply for what our clients are experiencing, and we need to make sure that as our clients pour into us, we also have a space to pour into. I also have an accountability community. I'm part of an IFS consultation group, and we meet once a month where I am able to case consult and also talk about my own experience as a therapist, talk about those therapist parts that are coming up. And I feel so much relief from joining that group compared to times in my career where I didn't necessarily have that. It's a space where I feel completely safe, where I feel like I can show up exactly as I am and be myself and be honest. I don't have to be professional, pretend like I have it all together and I have all the answers. I can be earnest and authentic in who I am as a therapist that day, that week, that month, and get the support that I need and get sometimes the comfort that I need as we navigate a complex job. The next tip I have is to schedule some mindfulness in your workday, and this does not have to be a long extended time. I have a quick mindfulness exercise that I recommend you use that can be really, really helpful for setting up the energy of your day and how you're going to be able to show up better for your clients. So a quick mindfulness you could do at the beginning of your day is to check your calendar and look at who you have scheduled for that day, noticing any therapist parts that are already coming up. I say therapist parts, but any parts that are coming up. We do sometimes have clients who have similar stories to us or similar therapeutic goals or therapeutic issues, even a similar diagnosis to us. And so we can notice that we do tend to be more activated with those clients sometimes. Or we might notice therapist parts come up, like we become a caregiver to a client, or you become an analyzer or a storyteller. And it can be really helpful to spend a moment looking at your calendar and spend just 5 minutes just thinking about what's already feeling activated for you at the beginning of the day, sitting with that and caring for yourself, extending some self-compassion and a little bit of mindfulness, self-awareness towards your experience. Because we know name it to tame it is a really helpful tool. And when we're having a right brain emotional experience, bringing in some of that left brain language can help to regulate our system. And of course, we have things like deep breath and grounding, things where we can help our body to calm down as well. If you take some time to do that before your day even begins, you're already putting yourself in a better mental state than if you were to just jump into your day, go client to client to client, and then that client comes up on your calendar and you're already feeling activated. Take a moment to notice the human part of our job, what's coming up for you, and care for it. Care for your own experience. Just take that mindful minute, just a little drop of mindfulness where you can really sit with what comes up for you in session so that it can maybe feel a little bit better once you are in session and afterwards. You're slowly able to kind of piece away at that countertransference experience, and eventually that part's going to feel less and less activated in your workspace. Another very simple self-care tip to help with your energy levels throughout the work week is to turn off your email notifications. That simple thing you can do on your phone so that you're not getting a ping every 5 minutes, or you're not getting 10 email notifications between clients that you suddenly feel an urgency to answer is really, really going to help with your energy throughout the day, because that is a lot of mental energy expended on checking your email. Should I reply? How urgent is this? Oh my gosh, now I'm thinking about that email while I'm sitting in session with this client. And oh my gosh, I really need to get that thing done. And oh, I forgot I told that person I would send them something yesterday. So much mental energy that is not necessary and is not required of your workday. Instead, have designated times where you check your email. For me, it's morning, lunch, and at the end of the day. And do not check your email outside of those times. This is really going to help you with your mental energy throughout the day. It's also going to help you to feel more focused with your clients while you're in session, and creates more space for you to be present with your work rather than distracted with these notifications that could pop up every minute. Sometimes it feels like in a day. And the last self-care tip that I will add, which does coincide with that, is also setting a time boundary on your computer usage, making sure that you have a time every single day, no matter how many tasks are on your to-do list, where you set that computer aside. That's going to be really, really helpful with you creating some very good time boundaries around work and making sure that you have better work-life balance throughout the week. You really, really want to make sure that every day you're being respectful of your time and that you are having time outside of those work hours where you're resting, connecting, having alone time, having community time, running errands, getting appointments scheduled, meeting obligations, all of that, so on and so forth. And having some separation of that from your workday can feel helpful as well. If you're trying to squeeze all that into your workday, that's also going to feel like too much for your system and is going to overwhelm you and deplete you. Some of us are working from home. If you are constantly trying to do chores or tasks between clients, that's going to burn you out. So make sure you are assessing your boundaries around work and personal life and doing any adjustments as necessary. For some of us, working from home and doing errands or chores between clients feels like a gift. It feels like it frees up your evenings and it's bringing more self-care into your routine. So if that's the case, don't change anything, but be mindful of really checking in with your body, with your energy levels, and making sure that you're not accidentally overextending yourself. And if that's the case, setting some limits and setting some boundaries around when you work versus when you don't. Making sure that you have a good baseline for what work-life balance feels to you, and recognizing that it's sometimes going to fluctuate. That's everything I've got for you today. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. It's free and it's the easiest way to support this podcast and help it reach even more people. And share today's episode with a friend, a colleague, or anyone who could benefit from today's information. Be sure to check out the Collective Practice membership if you're interested in getting even more support or finding your own community of mental health entrepreneurs, a space that is mindful, anti-hustle culture, and no BS. I'm not just going to sit there and spew off, you should do this, this, and this. I'm giving you step-by-step ways to run your private practice, help it grow, and help it become a sustainable business. You can check all of that out at my website, laurenspaulding.co, and links will be down below. Be sure to follow me on my other social medias where I post even more free content for mental health entrepreneurs. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye.